What's up, everyone? Blanston here. Welcome to my breakdown of the Melbourne regional event, which I attended on Saturday, the 13th of December. We'll go round by round talking about the games. I sadly did not do that well, which I'm surprised about, but I'm not surprised about at the same time. We will unpack all the matches, and then we'll talk about the format as a whole and my experience, and sort of wrap up this little Ace saga, so then we can move on to gameplay videos. Yeah, before I start, I just want to say that I'm not upset in any way about what happened. It was such a fun day, and it's hard to feel depressed if you haven't attended a big event, like in-person event. Like I highly recommend it. You'll really enjoy yourself, even if you don't do well. It also really helps when before round one, someone came up to me and said that they watched the videos. I honestly can't believe that happened. It popped into my head the night before that that maybe it could happen, but I shot that down pretty fast. My YouTube numbers looks like pretty small, so the chances of a viewer attending seemed ridiculously slim. But not only did it happened three times. Once before the event started, once at lunchtime, and once again at the end. They came at like the perfect time to keep my emotions in check. And I by the end, I really didn't even care about the losses because that was so cool. Shout out to Bailey, Luke, and Chris. You made my day, and I'll do my best to keep providing some decent content. All right, well, let's jump into the games. Or before we do games, this is the list that I ran. You would have known if you watched any of the series what I was going to be running. But for anyone that's new to the channel, this is the list that I took. Pretty standard. Most of the top lists that topped on the on that event were pretty similar. I did, as you'll see, I did not play a single mirror. So the three Atmos, I didn't really get a chance to utilize those, but I think I used it a couple of times in some other matchups, but I don't regret making that three. But yeah, happy was nothing wrong with the list. That's not the list didn't change didn't have any bearing on my performance. All right, so round one was against Zorro, and I won. Finally, got the monkey off my back of losing round one. I've done that for the past 3 or 4 events. I keep losing round one, which is just you never want to do, and I got the win, thankfully. So I lost dice roll and I went second. And God, like after my mulligan, it wasn't looking good. I had no, I think I had, I maybe had an okay hand. No, it can't have been that good because I literally I had no curve. No curve. I had no Marco on 4. So on 4 on, I swung 9 and played a Garp, but then Garp didn't find me anything that usable. So no Marco, no Jozu, and then on 8 Don, no 10 drop with event. So on my opponent's 7 on turn, he played Law into Cavendish and had a rest in Cavendish, and then restood 2, played Kashiro. He had 3 cards left in hand. And then I swung 6 with Yamato into the Cavendish, and he blocked with Kashiro. So then I was able to, I think I top decked a Jozu. So I attached 2 to leader. I swung 8 at the Cavendish, cleared that, and then was able to use the Jozu on a Toshigi. So my 8 on turn, I was lucky because I got a nice double clear. But if he had any counter in hand, it could have protected that Cavendish. I would have been forced to bounce the Cavendish, and then he would have had Toshigi still on board, and then maybe that would have been the difference for him to win. But I stabilized after that, and then was a pretty normal Zorro game, but it was looking grim. Zero, no, like just nothing nothing went right when you're going second. But I think my opponent maybe didn't have a couple of pieces either, so it was all good. It was all good. So we got the win. Round 2 was Imu. I lost a dice roll and I went first. It's pretty standard Imu game going first. I had a decent curve. I played Yamato on 5. I didn't get to go Yamato again on 7. I played Jozu. And this was where it went a little bit off script because I had to play Jozu. I played it, so I had 7 Don. And to make sure I was getting max value out of Jozu, I played a 1-drop out of hand to search and then bounce 2 1-drops back. So I didn't have any Don left over to attach to leader. If I had 2 1-drops already on the field, so I could bounce those 2 back and then still attach 1 to leader, which nets me another card overall. That would have definitely helped because I think I only sort of like lost by, a couple of K counter at the end. So that was one little thing that didn't go my way. And then there was another small incident where he had a character rested on board, and then he's no blockers and his life was wide open. And I had Jozu and I played a 9-beard. So I had a 7k swing and a 8k swing. I swung 7 with Jozu. He gave me a 2 and a 1. And I'm like, oh, great. I swung in his face. And then I could have, usually I would always say clear board, clear board, clear board, clear board. But then, he had the blocker. I mean, he had no blocker. And then you're staring at him and you're like, oh, I can put him to 2 life here. And then, you think that putting him to 2, you think that if the game goes like normal, then, 2 life is so much easier to kill him than 3 life. But so the temptation to swing into life won me over, and I did the damage when I should have cleared the character on board. Probably looking back at it, I should have just cleared the board. Don't worry about taking the life because when you go first, you need to make the game go as long as possible to let you build your wall. And instead of clearing the board, I went for life and gave him an extra card and did the damage, and then I left that other character on board. And I think maybe I should have just, even though his life was wide open, no blockers. See, because usually they'll put up a blocker. So at least, if you swing, if you swing at their life, they'll probably block. So either way, you're clearing a character. But when they don't have a blocker, you're sort of just you're going to deal a life, or you're going to clear that rested body. I should have just cleared the body. I should have just cleared the body. Get one less swing coming at me because I think next turn he played a Jupiter and then no, because it would have been an Elder's turn. But it's just one less card out of my hand. That character swinging back at me is just one more card I have to take out of hand, and it's just all about going first. You just need you need to be able to play 2 or 3 10 drops before you run out of cards. I keep running out of cards against Imu. I don't know what's happened lately. But yeah, but as I said before, the night before the event, in the last A's video, I said I'm not going to have any expectations because it's a dice roll format, and sometimes going first is hard to win, and I knew that going in, so I wasn't too upset about this. So I was like, whatever, hopefully next time I play Imu, I'll win the dice roll. But yeah, just 2 little mistakes there. So one was the first one wasn't a mistake; it was just unlucky with the Jozu not being able to attach a Don to leader, or the fact that I didn't have Yamato. So I was a couple of cards down there, and then the other one was not clearing the board, so I was a couple of cards down there. And then just say that's 1 card from the first thing, and then 2 cards from the that's 2 cards you're down when it gets to that late game phase, and it just that's a lot of that's a lot of cards. That could make a huge difference. So we lost that one, 1-1. I'm like, it's all right. Yeah, that was more of a, that's you lose dice. It's hard. It's hard. Round 3, we got lucky round 3 because we ran into a Bonnie, which gave us a perfect chance to sort of bounce back without getting too tilted or having to really, I didn't have to worry about dice roll really. I didn't have to worry about because it's just a favored matchup. So this was pretty chill. I won the dice roll and I went second. I had perfect curve, Bonnie into Jozu into 10 cost. And then after 10 cost, I think I played another Marco and an Uto and just block it up, and there was nothing he could do. Like you're like Marco draws you cards, Jozu, reduces their attackers, and then they don't really have much to get through blockers. So this is a simple game, but I was happy to get it early, just to bounce back from that loss. Not too much to talk about. Look, the guy was a great Bonnie player, but it's just impossible. It's just so favored for ace. I don't really see how they can win that one unless we really brick. But not much to say about this one. Just a nice clean game. Round 4 was an Imu, and I won this one. I did lose dice roll again and went first. When I lost dice roll, I was sort of just thinking, oh, here we go. It's going to be one of those days where the luck doesn't go my way, and then I just lose because of because of luck. So I got unlucky losing the dice roll, but I got really lucky with how the game played out. And I honestly should have lost. I played it pretty well, I did what I've learned to do going first and try to, draw as many cards as I could, but I just don't know I don't know what happened in the last sort of week. Like, all my confidence I had against Imu has just evaporated. Like, I just can't seem to make it to the late game. Or I don't know if just the two guys, these two Emus that I versed at the regional, were both pretty good Emu players. But yeah, it just seems like I was just really struggling going first. Like, just fighting an absolute uphill battle with and running out of cards so fast. Playing 9-beard and then going to 8K, and then you think that puts you in a good spot because they have to attach on to attack, but then they attached on, and all of a sudden you're 4 or 5 cards out of hand, and that doesn't, and then you're your hand's evaporated to nothing, and then you play your 10 drop, and you're like, okay, great, now I'm back to 6K with no cards left. I don't know. I was doing something wrong, or something's happened recently, but but anyway, the game was going badly, and I was a bit salty mid-game, but then towards the end, all of a sudden, my opponent's just sort of demeanor changed, and he was started to get, he knew he was in full control throughout. He knew he had me, but then all of a sudden, he's just sort of oh, damn, and he had to randomly just go for game because the time was running out. And yeah, he just, all of a sudden, he had to go for game. And I'm he just had to swing with the 2 characters on board and leader, and I'm like, what's going on here? And luckily, I only had a couple of cards left, but luckily I had the perfect counter to defend an 8/8/9 or whatever he had to do. But his 2 of his 5 elders were trapped in life, so he had 3 life left, all the way up until the end of the game, and 2 of his elders were in there. So he played 2 and then ran out and couldn't do anything else. So yeah, I shout out to that guy. He deserved the win. And also one thing I do respect with this guy was he was, so overtime was called, and you've got 5 minutes to play. That's you've got 5 minutes extra time to play. He's turn 0 and then goes 1, 2, 3 or whatever it does. And on his turn 0, when they call time, he was taking forever to decide if he has to, he knew he had to go for game, but he was taking a really long time to sort of, to make a move. And it was almost over a minute and a half. The clock was ticking down, from 5 minutes to 3 minutes 30. I'm like, all right, I was doing the maths in my head. I'm like, okay, he obviously doesn't have elders. If he swings here, I was looking at my counter. I'm like, I can defend, I can survive. And then I can try and kill him in time. But I'm like, if he drops this clock down to like 2.5 minutes, and then when I start swinging, if he decides to like slowly decide how he wants to counter or slowly takes life, he could just run timeout, and then because I think I was on zero, so he could have just slowly taken my swings, got down to one, and then time would have been called, and he would have won because he's on one life. But he didn't do that. So even though he took a long time to decide how he was going to swing, once he did try and go for lethal, and I counted out, he just scooped. So I really respected that. He could have slow played me, honestly, if he wanted to. If you're not experienced in like big competitive events like that, that is something that is going to happen to you eventually. It's inevitable. Guys will manipulate time rules to win games. It's just how it is. Like all you can really do is just be vocal about it. Like if someone's taking more than they've only got the rules say you've only got a minute to make an action or like just to decide on an action. So anything that goes for longer than a minute, you're allowed to say, hey, can you please make a move? And if they don't listen or they keep doing it, like you call a judge over, judge will watch your game. You say this guy's playing slow. The judge will watch your game and then tell him to hurry up if he does it again. So yeah, people will manipulate time. This is what it is. But this guy didn't do it, and that was nice of him. He, when I counted out, he gave me the win. So good on him. Good on him. Nice guy. At this point, I was 3-1, and I was feeling good. The luck went my way in that game. Probably should have been 2-2. But I was I could have just as easily won the dice roll in both the IMU games and then been 4-0. So like you sort of, I wasn't like I was like I'll take the luck. Like a lot of times, doing well in events, there's a lot of lucky moments. Or with me personally, whenever I do well in an event, there's always some games where you look back and like, oh geez, that was lucky. Like, but luck's part of, you're playing like randomness and RNG. Like that's a big part of TCGs. So you take the luck when you get it. So yeah, on to round 5, which was Lim, and I lost this one. I lost dice roll and I went first. My opening hand was okay. I think I took it because I had I had like a Jozu, which I know is important into Lim or into purple and green altogether. But I had no searches, I only had an Otama. And then that Otama found me another Otama, and then I think that found me another Otama. So I played like 3 Otamas by turn on my first and 3 on turns, just to so I had to lose 3 2Ks out of hand just to sculpt my hand for the late game. Which is a bit of a shame. Like I'd rather keep those in hand, and especially Lim is actually surprisingly more aggressive than you think. Like he played really well. Like he put all his pressure on my life, and and then I think I ended up getting baited into doing the same thing, and it kind of ended up being like a race to kill each other, and I shouldn't have got sucked into the race. Like I should have, all you have to do against Lim is just stabilize and just get to the late game. And, once you get 1 or 2 blocker bids down, there's not much they can do. You just block her up after that and kind of just chip down their life slowly. You don't have to, sometimes with Lim with 4 life leaders, it's easy to get into this situation where you're like, oh well, I'll just try and get you low. So then I think it comes from how you play Zoro. Like when you play Zoro, you want to deal damage, and because you're gonna run out of cards eventually with Zoro because of how much pressure he puts on. But that doesn't necessarily apply to other green decks or to other matchups where you can stabilize. Like they don't demand as many cards out of hand, and you can your blockers are actually more useful and all that stuff. Like Zoro is a race, but other decks aren't, and I think where you just have to play it slower. And I put swings into phase. So just say I had a 6K swing, and I was gonna swing. I could have swung into his body, six. Like I could have swung into like a green sabo, like so I could have gone 6 on 6, and he gives me a 1k. But for some reason, I decided, oh, I'll put that into face instead, so he has to give me a 2k instead. Like maybe, and then but I should have just put the 6 into the 6 and then just starved him. Like not only am I starving him out of life cards, but I'm also just like getting his hand smaller, and you just got to play it a bit more patient. I got sucked into the race. He was going like he's going hard at me, getting me low, and asking. He's demanding a lot of like counter every turn, getting really aggressive, and yeah, I got sucked into that. So yeah, so I went Yamato into Jozu. He played Shanks, and then I red rocked. I had a good 9 non turn where I red rocked the Shanks and then swung 9 into a body, which he let go. So I double cleared there, and I was getting back into the game, but by the time I got back into the game and stabilized, I'd run out of cards, or given him too many options to keep his pressure up, and yeah, it just came down to he was going for his lethal, and I needed to get an extra 1k out of life, and it didn't happen, and he got the win. But yeah, I should have won this one. You could probably put it down to just lack of experience in the matchup. But yeah, this was the whole turning point of the day, really. Like you win this one, and you're 4-1, and then you're in that, like, from that point on you're going to be getting meta matchups, so you don't have to worry about rogue stuff necessarily. And then like it just puts you in such a good spot, because this was just before lunch break. You come back from lunch, you're 4-1. Even if you lose the next there, you're still 4-2. The opponent you're going to be versing at 4-1, like it just would have been a really good baseline. And this was the turning point. It was down to 3-2. We go to lunch, and then yeah, would have set me up beautifully for the rest of the day. But 3-2 just puts you in like a kind of a bad spot, where if you lose one more and go 3-3, and you get 3 losses that early, you kind of out of contention for pretty much all the decent prizing. Like you're not going to make top 64 from losing 3 that early. Like you would have to get lucky. Those 3 opponents would have to be really good or do really well for the rest of the day to make anything. So yeah, and that's what happened I lost again. Yeah, I lost again to Sabo. So we had lunch, came back from lunch, played against Sabo. I lost dice roll again and went first again, and then I watched him search 6-cost Sabo, and then drag. So he went Sabo on 6, Dragon on 8. I played a 9 beard. He stussied it, and then I think I played a 10 drop, but he was putting on so much pressure, and then he checkmated me by putting down a Roger when I was at 1 life. He put down Roger and then swung with all his characters, and then I had to like just dump an insane amount of counter. And yeah, and then I had to go for game after that because the Roger was on the board. I had no red rock. And I had to swing 9 with leader and 9 with Garp and hope they connected. And then he had enough counter to counter out of it. But yeah, rough game. You're like you lose the one before, you're teetering on the edge of your day, sort of just like getting ruined, or of not becoming anything. Then you run into one of your worst matchups, and then you lose the dice roll, and then yeah, what can you do? Not only that, he does exactly what he wants to do, and yeah, pretty rough. So that was and then 3-3. I was like, geez, pretty unlucky. So at this point I had won 1 dice roll, out of the whole day. But shout out to this guy though. He was really nice, and one positive thing about going to sort of the lower tables is you meet really nice people. Like everyone, like they aren't there to win. They're just sort of there. Well, that's like they probably are there to win, obviously, but they're not taking it as seriously maybe as the guys that are in that are 5-0 at this point. And then they're just playing and having fun. And he was a really nice guy. And I try and do my best to sort of leave my saltiness at the door and talk to him, and I always end up having a good time, even though I'm losing or whatever. Like they're always nice guys, and it's nice to meet new people. And this guy was, he said he was like really into Beyblades, and I love Beyblades, and I've never played before, so I was like picking his brain about Beyblade X and all that, like all the stuff that comes with like competitive Beyblading and all. And it was just cool. It was just a fun experience. So like you can't like yeah. No, I was happy that he was a nice guy. So shout out to him. Round 7 was Roger. So I was 3-3. I needed to win this one to have any chance of doing anything. But I lost. And I lost dice roll and I went first. And that's sort of all I really recall about this game. For up until I was making notes for pretty much the first 6 rounds, and then the note taking kind of dropped off. But yeah, I don't even know. I don't really know how I lost this one. Like Roger is not it's not a bad matchup. I should be beating Roger. But yeah, he ramped. He ramped like he ramped. He played a good curve. He played the bullet into Odin, into Rayleigh, into Tenkosh Shanks, and then so I think by the time his Shanks came down, I could only I was on 9 Don, so I couldn't like red rock play Marco or anything like that. So I'm red rocking and doing kind of nothing, putting no blockers down, and if I'm having to red rock on 9 Don, that means I'm missing my first chance to play like a 10 beard. So it was just I don't know like he had a good curve, and first was just not like treating me well all day. I don't know what like and that's what I wanted to talk about was like you saw in the last video when I was going through my stats, like out of all my games, when I went first, I only won 45% of the time. So, I'm assuming that's what the numbers meant on the screen, but yeah, like firsts, I'm not good at going first. Obviously, I enjoy playing on curve, just going like 4, 6, 8. And then when those early turns are nice and simple, then it like frees me up just to like make good decisions in the late game. But sort of when you go on first and you sort of have to like, decide which characters to play, and you're floating Don and you're, I don't know. Don't know what happened here, but I lost this one. So 3-4, 0 chance of getting top 64. And from this point, I just decided to drop out, and I thought, I'll go and play a side event instead, because they were running OP13 winner box side events. So I thought, look, I'll try, and there's no point playing the main event out just for pride. Like I might as well go and play like a 4-round side event, and who knows, if you win 4 in a row, you get yourself an OP13 box. I'm like, might as well give that a crack. Sign up to the side event. First round was Zorro. That was kind of a weird game. I think a lot of the people playing side events are just messing around, having fun. He was like, he was a great guy, and we had a lot of fun. But I think he was like just like taking life a bit too liberally. He had like a 13 card hand or something, but then I also had like a crazy hand. It was just a weird game, but I won that one. Second Zorro play, I was a bit more sensible with taking life and countering, and put me under a little bit more pressure, and then I like out of like a 10-card hand at one point. I think I had 5 bricks and then 5 will counter. So, and against Zoro, that's just too. That's too many bricks. Like you can't. You need to be able to. You need to have a hand full of counter just to sort of to like protect yourself when you need to and stay at certain like stay at the life you want to stay at and protect your characters and yeah, just too many bricks. So side event, won first round, lost second round, and then once you lose, you're out. And yeah, that was my day finished. The day was finished, but you still, I still spent like another, hour and a half just walking around, chatting to everyone. All my mates, a couple of my mates did really well, so you're chatting to them. You just can't leave. Like you sort of like it's so. I think I said goodbye to people about 3 times. Like you just, you're walking past people like, hey, I thought you were leaving. I'm like, yeah, well, I was, but then on the way out, I spoke to this guy, and then I spotted my friends again, and then I went and chatted to them, and then like you just, it's just such a fun day. So even though I lost, like I didn't care. It was a great day. But yeah, so that was my event. Sorry if that was a bit rambly, but yeah, like I don't really know how to feel about it. I think a lot of it, like part of it, did feel like luck. I did feel pretty prepared, but I'm sure if you spoke to the ace players that were that like did some of the like the ones that got top 6 like top cut on the day, you would have said, oh, how many like did you play against Imu going first? They would and did you beat Imu going first? They would have said, oh yeah, I did. Like you can't make it, you can't make top cut or going like X1 or X2 and then not win. You can't just, those can't be auto lose matchups. You have to be able to win some of them. Like there would have been people out there that were winning Imu going first. Like there's, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's just, you can't really blame it on luck because I'm sure there are ace players out there that are like skill diffing their opponents and winning those games where they don't win dice roll. Like I can't blame the dice roll. Like maybe it's just maybe it's dice roll dependent in the sense that I was useless going first. Like I went first 6 times. So against Roger, Sabo, Lim, the 2 Imus, and well, the first Zoro. Pardon me. The first Zoro I wanted to go. The first Zoro he wanted to go first, so I lost roll and went second. But yeah, so like out of 5 games, I went first, and then they were all not all losses. Hang on. Oh yeah, because that Imu game, they should have been all losses. The one I won, but yeah, 4 losses were going first, and the 5th one was just getting super lucky because of those 2 elders in life. But yeah, yeah, I don't know, but I'm just gonna move on. Like I'll talk a bit more about sort of the psychology of it in a bit. But yeah, so that was the regional. Thank you so much to the guys that said hello to me. That's so cool. Really motivates you to keep like making content. And I need to be careful because I'll let the content consume me and I'll start sort of letting go of other responsibilities in my life. I need to be careful just to try and keep everything in check. But yeah, really cool. Shout out to Jake, my mate, who bubbled out of top 16. He got 17th. It's a great performance by him, but just missed out. What else? I think that's everything. So we're going to move on to the next second half of the video. And, I don't want to waste... I was going to split this into 2 videos and do like a separate video about my OP13 experience and talk about Ace like on a bit of like a deeper level. But then I don't want to waste nights where I could be filming and playing new decks and just like doing fun stuff. So I'm just gonna tack it on at the end here. But yeah, so just before I get into that, one thing I want to talk about is Taxbeard. I I'm wondering if because I was having so much trouble against Emu going first, that maybe I should have played this over Ninebeard. So the reason people weren't playing it is because Ninebeard is just better into the mirror and into Zoro. And look, it's definitely good into Zoro. Go on AK leader, you need way less characters, way less cards to defend swings, and it's really good. Like Ninebeard is better into Zoro, and then it's more. Ninebeard is better into the mirror as well because it does something like this. If you play this in the mirror, this Taxbeard, they don't really have to swing, so they can just sort of like play a 10 drop and just pass turn back to you, and it doesn't really do anything. But yes, but I think with how much I was struggling against Emu towards the end, or like against the good Emu players, I maybe should have just put this in and then just said, look, this will help me win Emu, and then I'll just try and do my best into Zoro and the mirror without Ninebeard. I should have tested this more. I should have tested this a little bit. So if you don't know what Newgate does, he's a floodgate where that makes your opponent discard 2 cards every time they want to attack with their characters on the next turn. And so against Ymir, you put it down, and basically they have to pass. They're not gonna swing, except with their leader. And then you've got a big 12k beat stick on the field. So maybe could have experimented with this. Just that could have been one of my own personal choices where it's like, okay, I am struggling against Emu. I'll put something in that helps against it. But yeah, this could have been it. Maybe I should have played this. But yeah, so that's that. Let's talk about my OP13 experience as a whole. It's been an interesting journey. It felt like I put a lot of work into it because I was doing all these videos, but maybe I think sort of the whole making the content side, like doing the editing and worrying about all this other stuff, like maybe because you're not purely focused on playing the game or about you're sort of you are a little bit distracted with other things that are going on, and I don't regret starting the channel. It's been great fun, but maybe I would have been like done a bit better if I was just playing by myself every night, just clicking away. You play because like when I film and commentate everything, I'm usually playing 3 or 4 games over like an hour and 15 minutes. And, sometimes when you're playing by yourself, you play so fast and just click away that you could probably get double the amount of games done if you're in that time if you're playing by yourself. And then also, when I go home and edit, I could be playing more there as well instead of editing. So maybe even though I felt like I'd put a lot of work into it, I was uploading all these videos and all the commentary and all the learning and all that stuff. I felt really prepared, but maybe in terms of like the really drilling into my subconscious, all the lines and all the things, like I maybe didn't play enough. Yeah. So what do we got here? So just whipped up this little graph about how fun Ace was. So at the start, look, overall I did have fun with Ace. At the start it was really fun. You're playing a deck that feels like it's really powerful. You're playing the 10 drops on 8, and then early in the format, like it's just feels so powerful. Nobody knows what to do against this massive wall that you're building, and you're drawing lots of cards. You're a 6k leader, and it was really fun at the start. And I'm a quick learner, so I maybe like picked up the basics of the format quicker than everyone else, or not everyone else, but like quicker than a lot of people that I was versing on the ladder. and I was, feeling really good, dominating matches. But then as I sort of, as we got, I was, if you go back through, I was plateauing around 300, 400 million. I had a couple of nights off and I'd drop heaps because everyone's, climbing ahead of you. And then, I was just getting stuck. I got stuck for a bit there and I was depressed. I'm like, he's aced the deck for me. I don't know if it's working. I don't know what to do. I keep losing. I'm trying to put in tech cards to make it more fun. I was just like, yeah, it was so there was that middle phase where it just wasn't fun at all. Like, because I was struggling. I didn't know what to do. I was struggling with the deck. But then we sort of hit reset, had a bit of time off, put the list back to normal. And then just started to actually, and then all of the whirlwind that was the first sort of couple of weeks of the channel, everything settled down, and started to learn again, or I started to actually get better with the deck, and then it started to get fun again. I was just sort of using that the like ace is not fun as an excuse because I wasn't good enough, but yeah, we got good, and it started to get fun. And then I don't know, when I was doing this, making this chart, and I would love to have it wouldn't let me make an extra line, I think, because it was filling up the space, but I would love to just add a little extra flat line right at the end here. And it was sort of like in the last few videos, or leading up to the event, we were sort of stagnating, and kept getting emu games and then kept losing, going first, or even lost going second sometimes. And it kind of, like, when we learned and we were climbing, it got good, and it was fun. And then towards the end, when we were playing against really good players, and then I started to struggle a little bit again, like there was just another little plateau right at the end here where the fun did start to die off a little bit. But yeah, overall, yeah, I just thought this would be interesting just to show like my how it's gone over the last sort of month of, yeah, we hit rock bottom, and then we dug ourselves out of the hole, and it was, yeah, it was fun. It was fun enough. Like, maybe not as fun as decks I've played in the past, but it was good enough. So yeah, so this was my worst meta performance in a long time. You know, without, like, I say this with like zero ego, or with zero arrogance, but for like the last 2 years, there hasn't really been a format where I haven't got at least one top 64 at least. Like, I usually set top 64 as my benchmark in a tournament, because I'm like, at least you walk away with your prize card, and you're like, at least you get something shiny to look at. And it's not a crazy performance, but I used to be like, I at least used to be satisfied with top 64. And I've always said, like, if you can consistently get top 64, like, that's like, it's the consistency that makes a good player. And I thought, where I was at in my journey was, I was a consistent player, and then I just needed that breakthrough top 8. Say I've earned a serial card and all that stuff, and I was just waiting for it to happen. But then this format rolled around, and then I'm looking at it now. I'm like, God, I would kill for a top 64. Like, I can't even believe that I set that as the benchmark when it was so far away in all three of the events that I played in OP13. So the 2 treasure cups, and then this weekend. Yeah, honestly, it was, I usually do not do this badly. And I've sort of have to, like, ask why. Like, why was it so bad? So there was 3 things that, like, look, I didn't expect this channel to become like a, I'm basically putting a spotlight onto, like, my brain and the psychology of playing One Piece and all this, like, it's turned into like a real social experiment. Because that you're just analyzing, everything gets analyzed, all your performances, or everything. But yeah, there's 3 things that I've had to sort of look back at. I'm like, why, like, why couldn't I win this format? So the first one was just some life factors. So before, so there was two main things. One was starting this channel. Like, this was a pretty big step in my life. Like, I've always wanted to make content, and and I did it, and I decided to do it for OP13. I thought, yeah, I'm gonna like Ace, or and I'll be the Ace guy, and I'll try and I'll make videos, and I did it, and I'm really happy that I did it. But it's a pretty huge step, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Like, filming for an hour, hour and a half, most nights, and then sort of, like, I know there's not much editing involved in my videos, but there's still a lot of, you still have to watch them back and then cut out any little interruptions, or put in the little text things. And you're still editing for another hour or so, and then you've got to render the video, which takes like an hour, and then probably because my laptop's a piece of crap, but and then you've got to upload to YouTube. It takes another half an hour, and then you've got to do all the timestamps and the description and titles, and it's a long process every time you film a video, and it's a big step. So, like, was the distraction of the channel what not made me do so well? But there was another thing, was that about a month before OP13 started, I found out I was going to be a dad for the first time, and that's a pretty huge deal. So, like, my whole existence has changed forever. Like, I'm not going to be, like, it's a pretty big deal to have to think about. You sort of the path of your life has changed forever, and maybe that's had a slight impact on my performance. Maybe sort of card games, don't feel as important to my brain anymore. Maybe, like, I've got bigger fish to fry. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe I'm a bit shell shocked. I knew it was, like, it's coming, but it's still, until it happens, you don't really know what it's going to do to you. But yeah, could be that. That could have played maybe a factor, bit of a distraction. So yeah, could have been the combination of those two things. Just, but it could have also been, you have to ask yourself, was Ace just not my deck? Like, I've got a friend, Jacob. Shout out to you, Jacob. Really, better Ace player than me. The results speak for itself. And he was telling me after the event that, like, I was talking to him, and I was saying, look, maybe Ace is not my deck, and he said, oh, well, yeah, it seems like Ace is my deck, because he was struggling to get results, and then OP13 rolls around, he starts playing Ace, and then he gets a top 16 and top 64 on the event on the weekend, and then it's kind of like, well, so maybe you have to ask yourself, maybe Ace does suit some people's brains more than others, and maybe, like, it just didn't suit me. And that's, like, I've never really thought that could be a thing. If you watch my videos, like 3 weeks ago, I did think that was a thing. I was just like, nah, Ace is not for me. I don't like it. It's boring. I find it boring. Blah blah blah. But then a week later, I was sort of just like, no, stop being an idiot. Suck it up. There's no such thing as a deck's not for you. You're just not good enough. Just get good, and then you'll start to do better. Like, just put, I just thought, oh, I haven't put in the work. That's why I was getting. But maybe life was kind of telling me, like, the universe was kind of telling me back then that, like, maybe it isn't your deck, because we did get better, and we did learn everything, and we did put in the work, and I thought I was ready, but then the results still didn't really come up. Like, I was still kind of struggling. Like, that Lim game, I should have won. I should have won, and then that Roger game, you should have win. Like you should win. Like, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe Ace is not my deck. Maybe there's something, the way that it works, the way how it's sort of, it's a slow, methodical deck where you're playing for the late game. You have to You know an ace game, apart from a couple of matchups, it's going to go for a long time. There's going to be a lot of back and forth, and I don't know. Maybe ace just wasn't for me, and sometimes like it hasn't happened before. Like I've always seemed to like I thought a deck that I gravitated towards that I liked. I thought as long as I liked a deck and I liked the colors and I liked the character, that was the deck for me. But now a whole new realm has opened up for me where I have to genuinely, moving forward, I've got to genuinely consider, is this play style right for me? Like I've never tried to pigeonhole myself into any sort of play style or whatever, but maybe I do need to consider it now. If I test a deck and then after a week or so of playing, if I get those vibes like, you know what, this is not for you, I might have to listen to that. And the third was just like, did I just not play enough? you know in the like I sort of was getting the feeling there was times in the week before the event I'd built up the knowledge to a sort of like I built up the knowledge to like I had a really good like a really good foundation of what I had to do and my game plans, and you build up this really good foundation, and then I could just tell I could just tell them like, all right, from here I need to build on it by just playing a heap of games. Like you need to run once you learn to a certain point, you basically like need to like just put like an algorithm on where you just like play like 1,000 games and then just like pick up little bits of information as you go along. Like even though you know what you're doing, you just need to play so many more games to just pick up little tiny bits of, oh, in this situation I do this, and in this situation I do this, and oh, when he plays this card I respond with this card. And you just have to put in, just sometimes you have to put in a lot of games. I thought I did put in enough games, but there was a part of me that's saying I should have maybe put in a few more. But yeah, maybe it's just the format where this type of format where you just needed to put in more work. Just more like I didn't really play that many games. Because yeah, I was only playing like sort of 3 or 4 a night when usually, you'd want to try it. Like you could easily fit in 10 a night, and a lot of ranked grinders out there would be putting in triple the amount of games that I was playing, and and it's sort of, yeah, they would have got decent results just because they're like downloading so much information. Like you just need to download all the information that's out there by just playing and playing and playing and playing and playing. And that's what sometimes, yeah, One Piece is a lot, or like playing card games, it's a lot. You have to really put in a lot of work. Like just a quick story I heard from a player in the East, and I heard an interview with them, and they said that if they're training for a tournament, they could play up to like 14, 14 to 18 hours a day. Like 18 hours a day. And like that's like I can't, yeah. Like, well, how do you compete with that? Like that some you probably would say that that's like, playing games is his full-time job. Like these guys of, like when you consistently top, you could probably sell your prizing for enough money just to have a decent little salary. And some people, like, gaming's a job. Like I'm not gonna, like, it is a job. I'm not gonna begrudge anyone saying like, oh, how can you, well, why don't you go out and get a real job and play less games so we can all compete? Like, no, you're allowed to. If you're committed to the game and you want to play every day, and like, yeah, good on you. Like I respect it. But I'm just like sitting here like, how do I compete with that? Like I don't have enough time to put in to play that much. But yeah, I could have played more. I could have played more. If I had one more week where I could have just put in more reps, build on everything that I built up to that point, maybe I would have done a little bit better. But at the same time, maybe I didn't. Maybe I wouldn't have. What else we got? So we're getting towards the end. One thing I need to ask myself now is like, can I afford to take Ace to nationals? So we get to like it gets to a certain point where you're like, okay, you're analyzing the OP14 meta, you're analyzing the decks that come out, you're analyzing the results that are coming out over, and you might be you're looking at a tier list, and a lot of a recent tier list comes out where Ace is the best deck, still the best deck of the OP14 format, based on results. It's got the most tops or whatever however you work it out, but it looks like Ace is going to be one of the best decks. So then I think to myself, okay, well, I've put a lot of work into Ace. Should I play Ace? I'll keep playing it. But I kind of just have to think to myself, like, well, can I afford to play it? Like, I have zero results to back up playing Ace. Like that kind of has to be a factor, doesn't it? I can't just rely on just keep on putting in more work and then like, oh, I'll get better and I'll get better and I'll get better and I'll end up being able to win with it. Like I don't know if that's possible. Like I don't know if it works like that. You sort of need. I feel like you when I first started this channel, I really had this pathway in my brain where I was gonna play the online treasure cups as a bit of a warm up and see how I go in those, and then I was going to go to the regional and I was going to do well in that event and then springboard that into nationals. But that all hasn't happened now, so I'm back to sort of square one. And can I afford to rock up there and then just be like and just hopefully rely that Ace is all of a sudden going to win for me? I don't know if I can just mentally, like just the psychology of it. Like there'll be so much doubt in my mind. And I think I might have to pivot to something else, and then so at least it's a clean slate, and I can be like, okay, there's no skeletons in the closet. Like, I'll still make sure I put in the work with it. Like, whatever deck I take, I want to be ready. But it just going back to back failures with Ace, I just don't know. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can bring it. It's just going to be, I don't know. We'll see how the format plays out. Hancock won a big regional just over the weekend. Boa definitely looks like a strong deck. And so that Boa's a contender. What do I like playing Boa? I'll have to see. There's definitely the top 16 of the recent Japanese regional was really diverse. Like Mihawk's an option, Purple Doffy's an option. There was a Jinbei that made top 16. Like there's definitely options. But yeah, I like Ace didn't bring me the goods. So and when you mix the lack of results with that sort of niggling feeling of like, is it my deck and all these things? I don't know. If I jump into some Jinbei games or some Purple Doffy games, and then it just feels like this big weight off my shoulders, then I'll probably have to play one of those decks, which is a shame. I thought I really thought this was going to be a deck I was going to like just because of the colors. The colors are the same colors as my the football team that I support. I love Ace as a character, like the fire. It's cool, but yeah, it hasn't worked out. It hasn't worked out, and that's fine. Like I've never experienced this feeling where it's like sometimes formats just don't go your way. Like shout out to my mate Dimitri. He put in a lot of work into Emu, and he thought that he was gonna like playing Emu, but sort of like me, just couldn't. He did better than me probably overall across the 3 tournaments, but couldn't really translate all of his work into a good result. And then by the end of the regional, he sort of just bubbled out of top 64, and he said to me, he's just like, I hate this meta. And I'm like, yeah, I feel you, like I don't necessarily hate the meta. I didn't really care. Like if I played Zora, I played Emu all day. Like I don't really care, but it's not the meta that I didn't like. I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I didn't like. Why, but maybe it was the play style of my own deck, But he did like the play style of his deck. but yeah, he couldn't fire a shot either. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes that happens. You put a lot of work in, and it doesn't work out. But you know what? Card games don't stop. There's another set coming out. 3 months later, there's another set coming out. They keep printing new leaders. Meta changes constantly. There's always going to be new stuff to play. There's always going to be events. Before you know it, Nationals will be here. And even if I don't do that well at Nationals, there'll be another event the month after. And then there'll be another event the month after that. And there'll be another event the month after that. So there's plenty of time to prove myself and to improve and to get the results, that I want to get. It didn't happen this format, but it is, that's fine. It's not like I haven't gained nothing. I've gained nothing. I've started the channel. I've learnt, I've sort of developed a good routine, like a good practice routine. Like there was times where I sort of, just say the big event would happen this weekend, and then I'd be like, okay, there's another event in like a month. And then maybe I would just take like 2 weeks off and just not play, or I would just sort of take my foot off the gas and just be like, yeah, all right, I'll learn the new meta eventually, or sort of like it's okay, I'll have a break now. But what this channel has done, or like I've learned that it's kind of like tomorrow I'm straight into new stuff. I'm not taking my foot off the gas. I'm gonna clock's ticking. There's 1 month left till Nationals, and just got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off. So I've learned. Yeah, I've learned so much, and this channel is a thing now, and I'm gonna keep making videos. So I'm super grateful for this meta. It didn't look after me in terms of results, and it's a bitter pill to swallow because I'm trying to present myself to you guys as someone that knows what they're talking about. And then it gets to a certain point. Like, at what point does it get where you guys start going, okay, well, does he know what he's talking about? Obviously, maybe I'm a better teacher than a player, but yeah, I'll get there. Maybe it's just not my deck. Anyway, that is enough rambling. I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover. The last section of that, I had sort of like a bit of a script for all the rounds and everything. The last sort of part of that was off the top of my head, so apologize if that was a bit incoherent, but I wanted to talk about, I thought it was pretty interesting about like just the psychology of all of card games and everything that comes with it. But yeah, that should be everything. And then now we're back into gameplay videos. So tomorrow night I will be recording Jinbei video. I thought that was just going to be a fun one, and that like Jinbei wasn't really a contender, but he did go undefeated in Swiss on the Japanese regional. So he went like 9-0, and then just lost first round of the top cut. So it kind of makes his performance look not that impressive when he's getting top 16. But he did go undefeated in Swiss. So like it's a real deck. It's a real deck, and kind of scared of just like raw aggro without any kind of defensive capabilities. But it's blue, and if it's fun, who knows? Jinbei could be the guy. But yeah, we're jumping on him tomorrow night. Tune in for that. If you made it this far, thank you very much for listening to my rambling. But yeah, that's everything. All right. Catch you later, guys.